What's up, mama?
What's up, son? What's up, my Facebook friends? I've been gone for a minute.
It's been a minute for sure. So, you was telling me a ghost story that happened to you recently?
Yeah, a week ago.
What happened?
Okay, I was in the kitchen and I was washing my dishes, and my granddaughters. I keep my two granddaughters, 18 and 15. They stay with me. Well, anyway, so I was in the kitchen washing dishes, and all of a sudden, because they like the noodles, the beef and the chicken noodles, and it was an open pack.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the pack of noodles, this is the truth. One of the pack of noodles, now while I'm washing dishes, one of the pack of noodles I don't know how, just got out the pack, just threw the pack on the floor, and it ran it over there by my granddaughter's door. I'm like, I look around, I'm like, cause I know something I start feeling eerie, you can tell when the ghost is around you, cause I can't, cause I feel eerie, get the eerie feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, the noodles just flew off the top of the refrigerator and just fell in front of my granddaughter's door.
What?
So
Wait, what was you doing in the kitchen?
I'm washing dishes. And so I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. How in the world could a pack of noodles, I understand, if they're on top of the refrigerator and it's a single pack, they might be on top of the freezer part. If you open the freezer part, they might fall down, but they ain't just gonna just throw themselves over there by the door.
Right.
Slinging over there by the door. And so I turns around and I go and I picks it back up, and I'm like, oh Lord, come on now.
Starting up again.
Don't start with me. So, and after, like I said, and as I start singing my song, again,
yeah.
I didn't feel it no more. And so later on that night, I was in my room. The girls was in their room. It might have been like 8 or 9 o'clock. So one of my granddaughters, my younger granddaughter, she goes in the kitchen. I guess she was gonna fix her some noodles.
Mm-hmm.
They love noodles. So as she was entering into the kitchen, she told me, and I came. She ran in the room and got her sister. She said, the TV just came on in the living room. The TV came on by itself in the living room. They came in my room. They got me. They said, Grandma, the TV came on by itself in the living room. So I get up. I come out of my room. I go to all three were standing in the entry of the kitchen by the living room. The TV on big as day on a cartoon show.
What?
They didn't even want to come in the living room. I'm gonna go in the living room. I came in the living room. The TV on big as day.
Was it loud? Was it loud or was it just regular?
It was just regular. It wasn't loud. It just like,
wow.
You turn TV on. I'm like, and so I told my sister the next day. She said, maybe you got a timer. I said, no, I don't got no timer. It can turn itself on like that.
Right.
I said, they ain't the first. This is the second time that TV that did that. Cause the first time it did it late at night.
How late you think? Like
it might have been like 1 o'clock. Because the girls was in their room, they was watching their own TV. So I get up, I come in, and I hear the TV on. The TV was loud.
Right.
This time the TV was loud. So I get up and I the first time it happened, I come to the living room and it was on. I forgot what it was on, but I know it was on a movie or something. And I'm like, why is it? Because I remember a long time ago when you was a baby, and I was in my room. You might have been 6 months old,
mm-hmm.
and you was laying in bed. Because I sleep with all my babies when they that young.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so you lay in the bed. You might be asleep. So the TV just came on by itself, and now I got the remote control on the side of my bed on the nightstand that I had with the lamp.
Mm-hmm.
And the TV came on and it just turned the channels. Back in the
Whoa,
yeah,
what?
The channel just turned and flip. I'm like, and I see the remote control on the side of me, and the channel just turned. I'm like, then I get that eerie feeling. I didn't want to get up and run because I'm so used to I'm so used to ghosts, following me. And so I get the remote control and I turn the TV off.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, come on now, this is my TV. This is my remote control. And then when I turn the TV on, it turned on the right channel that I really want to turn it on because during that time.
So wait,
I used to like to watch Andy Griffiths. I used to like to watch his show.
So hold on. So the TV, you was laying down.
Yeah.
Was you about to go to sleep?
Yeah, I'm about to go to sleep.
Okay, and then the TV just turned on by itself.
Yeah, I turned the TV off.
And when it turned on, it was turning the channels?
The channel was just, the remote control was just turning it. Because I want to run upstairs and tell my older kids, but I'm like,
right.
No, I ain't finna do that.
So after that happened, what you do? You turned the TV off?
I turned it off. I did. I turned it off. And then because I turned it back on because I wanted to watch the Andy Griffith show because that's what I mainly watch. I turned the TV before I did that. I was thinking in my mind that I was gonna turn to the Andy Griffith show.
Okay.
And then when I did turn the TV on, when I turned it on, it turned to the Andy Griffith show.
Oh my God!
Come on now.
What?
This is
Poltergeist type stuff. Oh my God.
Well, I told
Halloween 2006, story time. So my birthday is October the 1st, 30 days before Halloween, and by this Halloween, I'm now 21 years old. I can legally drink. Halloween night, I'm like, woohoo, let's go. I want to go to some parties. I want to go to some clubs. So me and my two friends make all these big plans for my birthday, but of course, come that day, they don't show up. I spent all that time partying with everyone else when they turned 21, but as soon as I turned 21, no one wants to hang out. So I decided, you know what? F them. I'm going to the beach myself. I'm going to party. Now, I'm not going to lie. I was dressed like a dirty slut. I mean, I had on a bustier top that pushed my boobs up, a short mini skirt that you could see everything. I was pulling a Dina. That's for damn sure. Dina from Jersey Shore? Yeah, you could see it all. I started off at the Galleon. When I tell you I walked up holding my ID with pride, like I was so excited I'd finally now be allowed to go in and drink. The bouncer was like, congratulations, happy birthday, because he knew what the deal was. He knew what I came for. I walk in the Galleon and I'm looking around and it's like bumping. I mean, there's people everywhere, but only problem is I don't know anyone. So I dig down into my bag and get me a percolator, pop it, go get me a drink, and I'm feeling on top of the world. I'm not scared. So I'm walking around the club, and I kind of feel like fresh meat because everybody's a little bit older than me. I can tell a lot of these people are like in their mid-30s, early 40s. There's a few 20-something-year-olds, but I'm like one of the youngest ones there. As I'm walking around, these girls start dancing around me. And I mean, they're like grinding on me and shit. I was dancing back on them too. Like, they basically turned me into one big sandwich. I was in the middle with all these people dancing on top of me. Y'all know me. Back then, I was a thought, so I was in hog heaven. I had all these hot women dancing on me. Yeah, it was great. About 12 o'clock, this gorgeous woman comes up to me. And I mean, she is bad. She's got these big old boobs, big butt, tight-ass like gown dress on, long hair, big, thick lips. I mean, she is beautiful. I can still see her lips in my mind today. She had the most beautiful, full lips I think I've ever seen. I was in awe of her because I had never seen a woman that looked like that. I'm from southeastern North Carolina. I've seen beautiful women, don't get me wrong, but she was on a whole other level. She starts grinding on me, like dancing with me for a few minutes, and I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute, I might get me a taste of this tonight. Oh, gosh, hold on now. I might be going home with that tonight. So we keep dancing, and then she grabs me by my hand, and she pulls me over to this group of people, and it's one guy and a bunch of girls. So I'm just standing there, and they're all talking to me. This dude keeps, like, making eye contact with me, saying, are you good? Are you good? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And he's like, do you have a place to stay? I said, yeah. He said, do you have a car? Yeah. Do you have a way home? Yeah. He said, here, you want some X? I said, what is that? Because I'd never heard of stuff like that. I knew it was word, like Percocet, Lorcet, but I'd never heard of this other stuff. So when he offered me that, I'm like, no, I don't know what that is, no. He keeps pushing, like, no, it's fine. Here, take it. It ain't gonna hurt you. It'll make you not a whole lot better. And I keep saying no. Well, the girl that was dancing with me puts one in her mouth, and then she walks over to me and takes one out of his hand and, like, holds it up in front of my face, like, waiting on me to open my mouth, but I never do. Because, like Grandma always said, don't take candy from strangers. And I ain't about to start now. So I just kind of pushed her hand away, like, no, I'm good. I don't want that. She says, oh, come on, let's have fun. I promise you, like, this is going to make the night so much better. Here, take it. And I said, no, I don't want it. Now, y'all know me. People can't push me around. Like, when I get annoyed, my temper gets out of control. So when I tell you no, like I said in the other video, when I tell you no 1 or 2 times, you're crossing the line at that point, and I'm fixing to get shitting. I don't care who you are. I look at this woman dead in her eyes, and I said no. Now leave me alone about it. And she's like, no, don't get mad. It's no big deal. But at that point, you kind of ruined my mood. Like, you'd already fucked my vibe up, so I'm starting to try to pull away from this little group. But every time I try to walk away, these people follow me. Like, all around the club, her and these other girls are following me, and then eventually this guy shows up every time. So if I walk over here to this table to get a drink, all these women follow me, and then within seconds, he follows them. And I'm thinking to myself, how did I get in this situation? I just came here to have fun. I just wanted to drink, and go home. Throughout the night, she keeps telling me, like, trying to push this guy on me, like, he's a good dude, you can move in with us, he'll give you a car, he'll give you a place to stay, he'll buy you clothes, jewelry, he'll give you money, like, he'll pay you to clean his house, like, just trying to talk this guy up to me. I keep telling her, bitch, I got a man, I don't want another man, I got one that's already given me enough hell, I don't need another one. He's got plenty of women, obviously. But she keeps pushing. No, he really likes you, girl. Like, he wants to hang out with you. He wants to take care of you. And I said, I don't need him to take care of me. I got a man that takes care of me. And my man knows I'm here out having fun. He don't care. So why would I want another one? And the other girls start trying to push him off on me like, look, we stay with him and he's so good to us and he treats us well. You would have it made here. You get your hair done, your nails done. I'm like, I've never had my hair done or my nails done. And they're like, what? You got to get your hair and nails done. He'll do that for you. But me being so young and naive and being sheltered all my life, I don't know what's going on at this point. I just think they're being really annoying trying to set me and this dude up. So I end up leaving and going down to another bar and I'm standing there drinking when all of a sudden, here comes that group of people. They walk in. Hey girl, where'd you go? We didn't know you left the club. And I'm like, we were all looking for you. What happened? I said, I left because I wanted to go somewhere else. What are y'all doing here? Oh, we're looking for you. I'm like, why are y'all looking for me? I'm a total stranger. You know nothing about me. Why would you be looking for me? We wanted to hang out with you. Come back to our house. We're all going to party. I said, no, I'm not going home with y'all. I already told you that. So again, one of the other girls comes up with her hand out like, here, take this, take this. I guess maybe they thought I had been drinking at that bar, so I was drunk or something. I don't know, but she starts trying to put this stuff in my mouth again, like, say, and I'll slap it out of her hand. And she's like, what's wrong with you? Why would you do that? Because I had such a bad temper and I had been drinking and I took that perk earlier in the night, my temper's flaring. So I'm like, didn't I tell you not to put that shit in my mouth? Didn't I tell you to stop trying? What's up, girl? What you want to do? And I start getting loud. And then the other girl, the pretty one, the one that had been dancing with me, steps in and tells her friend, stop, back off. Don't scare her off. We're trying to make friends, remember? You could tell they were trying to keep the peace because they wanted me to go with them. So all the other girls step in the middle and they're like, hey, y'all just calm down. And the guy jumps in and he's like, honey, it's okay. Look, once you come with us, I said, I done told y'all I'm not going with you. Now stop trying to push me into it. So I decided to leave. Okay, I'm going to another bar. I walk down the street, take my heels off, get into that bar with my new ID, and I'm standing there. I got me an Alabama Slammer. First time ever. Loved it. Lo and behold, within 5 minutes, here comes that group again. Following behind me. Where did you go? Wait a minute. I thought we were all hanging out. I thought you was going to come to our house. And here they go again with the ex. Here, take this. I'm telling you, you're going to like it. And I'm like, what is wrong with these people? How many times do I have to tell you I'm not going to take that mess and I'm not going home with you? So by now I am a bit tipsy, but I'm not stupid. And I realize they're trying to get me to leave with them and they're not going to leave me alone. So I end up going to use the phone and call my friend. He stayed in Myrtle Beach at the time and he was single, so I knew he'd come out and get me. No problem. He tells me, look, I'm at my friend's house, but I can be there in 5 minutes. Don't move. Stay right there. I said, okay. Traffic was really bad that night because it was Halloween. So of course he gets stuck in traffic and it takes longer than 5 minutes for him to get to me. These people were crowding me. I mean, there was like 20 or 30 of them now, women and this one guy. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to get out of here and sneak out to the bar next door and just hide out there until he pulls up. My dumb ass goes to the bar and decides to get me one more drink, just one more for the road. And I ordered on the beach. And I was going to call a cab and then sip on my drink until the cab got there, but that's not what happened. I ended up chugging that drink because it was so good and I had never had anything like this before. It was all new to me. And I chugged it. In a matter of probably 2 minutes, I couldn't walk. Couldn't see, couldn't talk. It hit that quick. My legs were like spaghetti noodles. My knees were buckling. My legs just completely folded. I start crawling to the bathroom because I know something's wrong, but I don't know what. And I'm thinking, you know what? You need to throw whatever this is up. Get it off your stomach. I'm in the bathroom trying to gag when I hear the door open. And this girl comes into the stall and pulls my head back and says, no, no, no. Then that whole group of women come in and grab me by my arms and they start carrying me out towards the exit. I see the same group now talking to the bartender and I put 2 and 2 together. The bartender had to have drugged my drink for them. From that point forward, I can't tell you anything that happened from my own experience. I can only tell you what my friend saw. So my friend gets through traffic. He pulls up to that bar. He looks out and he sees a group of people carrying this girl. It's a lot of people carrying this one girl to a car and he got a bad feeling. Something in his gut told him, go look at this girl's face and make sure it's not Alicia before they leave. He comes running up and says, whoa, what are y'all doing? Wait a minute. Let me see her face. Let me see her. Pushes people out the way. And once he gets up to me, he's like, hey, that's my best friend. You're not taking her nowhere. And then he snatches me out the car. He knew, wait a minute. These people are either traffickers, pimp, like something bad's going on here. We got to get out of here. These women started punching and grabbing on him, like trying to fight him to get him to let go of me. But I couldn't fight back. I couldn't do anything. I was completely limp. Finally, someone yells, they've called the police. The police are on their way and everyone takes off running and we're able to leave. So he takes me to the house and I had to sleep this shit off. And when I woke up, y'all, I felt so groggy, so bad, like hungover. Mind you, that night I only had one set, 1 beer, 1 Alabama Slammer, and 1 Spicks on the beach. Talking about a can of beer and 2 cups that are this deep. They were small, tiny ass cups. You know how little they are. I know they drugged me and they were all working together. But I was appreciative that my friend saved me and I thanked him and he took me home. That's why I tell people, don't go out alone. Use the buddy system. Watch your drinks. Watch the people around you. Pay attention. And y'all, please be safe out there.
Hello and welcome back to a series of spooky stories, The Haunted Teaspill. This series is brought to you by all things spooky and ungodly amounts of paranormal activity. Featuring the initial necklace, it also comes in silver. It's down here if you want it. Now onto the story. When I was in high school, I used to babysit for a family who lived in an apartment in a house that used to be a hospital. Oh, starting off strong. Before my first night there, I had been made aware that the house had some paranormal activity, but I wasn't prepared for some of the things that I encountered there. Are you ever actually prepared for paranormal activity? Like ever? The house had several different ghosts, and most were harmless pranksters. Okay, for example, one ghost was simply called the Smelly Man by the kids because you would just be sitting there and all of a sudden there would be a breeze as he passed, followed by the smell of cologne. One night after the girls went to bed, I cleaned up the living room and then went into the kitchen to wash the dishes. I was a very good babysitter. Clearly so. Go you, overachiever. When I was done in the kitchen, I went back into the living room to watch TV and found a half-eaten sandwich sitting in the middle of the floor. Another night, just before Christmas, I had finished with the dishes and went into the living room to look for my purse. I couldn't find it anywhere, so I asked whoever was in there, "Where is it?" Then I heard a bell on the Christmas tree jingle, so I went to take a look. Sure enough, buried behind the tree was my purse. I mean, I guess you gotta have a good time in the afterlife too. Who am I to judge? You know what I mean? The spirits were active during the day too. No, we can't do that. I need a little break. Give me a breather. You know what I mean? A little bit of decompression during all of the paranormal activity shit. No. One time, the mother of the family and I were sitting at the kitchen table when the doorbell rang. We were literally 5 feet from the door and could see nobody was there, so we just ignored it. The doorbell kept ringing until we finally laughed, acknowledged what they were doing, and asked them to stop. There was a ghost who knocked on the door all of the time, too. The kids called him, of course, the knocker. Really creative kids. Very creative. Not all of the ghosts were nice though. One time I had a friend over and we were sitting on the couch talking when all of a sudden the lights went out and a picture fell off the wall. But the worst night was one time when I stayed the night because the parents got home extremely late. The parents had gone to bed and the kids were asleep in their room. I was on the couch trying to sleep and the cat was laying on my chest. Then I heard something moving around the kitchen. Whatever it was came into the living room and stood next to the couch at the end where my head was. I held my breath as I felt it watching me. It went back into the kitchen for a bit before coming back into the living room to watch me again. Could you not do that? Could you just... Don't do that. This happened 3 or 4 times before it finally moved on and I could get some sleep. That was the only time I ever really felt scared about what was happening. I babysat those kids just about 1 night a week for over 3 years, and most nights, nothing happened. Every time I drive past the house, I wonder if the people who live there experience the kind of things that I experienced when I was there. Shit, probably. It was an old hospital? Come on. Ugh. Anyway, rated on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the least scary, creepy, spooky, 10 being the most. If you have a story of your own that you want to submit, you can do so on the link tree in my profile. Please do not forget to go follow my backup account. I have been like hella active on that page lately. Like, I'm proud of myself, okay? I'm trying to save up money for a new car. My truck, as we know, has been doing me dirty a little bit. Let's be so for real. But she's old. I gotta give her a break, you know? I will forever keep her because she was my granddad's truck. However, she needs to be retired to the backup. She can't be a daily driver anymore. And in this economy, you think that I'm just gonna I just got the funds to go purchase a vehicle outright? Hell no. I gotta save up for that shit. So any money that I make off of that account is going towards my car jar. Plus a few other side hustle things that I'm doing. So if you want to follow along for that journey, please, I will tag it in the video. I've been doing better about actually tagging it in here. I'll see y'all at the next episode. Stay spooky, friends.
Welcome back to another episode of Tea After Midnight. Just a little series where we have some tea to keep it nice and classy, but I also tell you scary stories. And tonight's story comes with a picture that has me absolutely unsettled. So grab your favorite tea and settle in, and let me tell you another scary story, because of course, this is Tea After Midnight. This story comes from Kay. Hi Savannah, I hope this email finds you well. I really enjoy your videos and I wanted to share something that happened to me last year. I've never been someone who fears or even believes in paranormal experiences. That only started to change when my mom began taking courses to become a shaman. She has always claimed to sense or see things, but I never believed her. I assumed it was just her mind playing tricks. That is, until things started happening in our home. At first, it was only my mom experiencing these things. One night, while she was home alone, she said she heard loud footsteps moving back and forth between our bedrooms from downstairs, which are right next to each other. It frightened her so much that she ended up sleeping on the sofa downstairs. Another time, she was standing in the hallway near the front door, facing a mirror. The downstairs bathroom was behind her. In the mirror, she noticed something in her peripheral vision. Something she described as human, but distorted, almost like it had a strange filter over it. When she focused on it, a painting I had made, one that had been hanging in the same spot for months, suddenly fell. Because of where it landed, it blocked the bathroom door completely. At the time, I brushed it off as a coincidence, assuming she was overthinking things because of her course. But then things started happening to me. It only ever occurred at night, after I had fallen asleep. I would wake up suddenly in a panic with thoughts that didn't feel like my own, almost as if someone was speaking directly into my mind. The thoughts were extremely vivid and specific. For example, I would wake up thinking, there is something sitting under your desk. It has long limbs and a long neck. It's smiling and it wants you to be afraid. Do not let it know you're awake. I would lie there completely frozen, pretending to be asleep, absolutely convinced that something was in my room. These episodes happened every single night. On top of that, the room would feel like it was spinning, similar to the sensation of lying down while extremely drunk. This took a serious toll on me, both mentally and physically. I struggled in college because I was barely sleeping. There were times I went 2 or 3 days without sleep, not because I wasn't tired, but because I was too afraid to fall asleep. The final incident was the most intense. One night at around 3:20 a.m., I had been downstairs in the living room binge-watching The Office. I went upstairs to grab my phone charger, and to get upstairs you have to pass through our long kitchen. At the far end, there's a couch. In the middle is the entrance to the living room where I was, and at the other far end, the hallway door, which was where I needed to go. After getting my charger, I walked back down into the kitchen. The kitchen lights were off, and when I looked down the far end, I suddenly see a figure standing upright on the couch at the far end. It was too dark to make out any features, but I was certain in the moment it was a person. We stood there for what felt like a full minute, just staring at each other, until it leaped off the couch and sprinted toward me. I ran as fast as I could back into the living room, barely managing to slam the door shut. I called my mom in a panic and crying, convinced there was someone in the house trying to attack me. While on the phone, I turned on the living room light so I could see into the kitchen. I grabbed one of the fireplace tools for protection and slowly went back to turn on the kitchen lights. There was nothing there. I searched the entire house, but still, no one was there. I checked every door and they were all locked. There was no way somebody got into the house. Plus, I live in a very small village in the middle of nowhere. At the time, I didn't even think of this as paranormal because of how real and vivid it felt. I later drew what I had been seeing and showed it to a woman my mom brought in to cleanse the house. Forewarning, I'm inserting the picture now. When she saw the drawing, she said it looked exactly like what she had sensed was inside the house after walking through the house. She even got chills at how accurately I had drawn it. After she cleansed the house, everything stopped. None of us have experienced anything like it since. So there are definitely a few things that I want to touch on this story. The first one's going to be when you would go to sleep, and every single night this happened. You would go to sleep, but you would wake up in a panic, feeling like somebody had spoke something to you, and you woke up and it was extremely vivid and specific. Like you said, for example, you would wake up thinking there is something sitting under your desk. It had long limbs and a long neck. It's smiling and it wants you to be afraid. Do not let it know you're awake. I have chills just reading that, because what do you mean that you would wake up and you would think something that specific, that something with a long neck, long limbs is under your desk, it's smiling at you, I've got chills again, and it wants you to be afraid, so don't let it know that you're awake. That absolutely sends chills down my spine. My whole body is in full chills right now. But this didn't just happen one night. This kept repeatedly happening. And I'm so sorry you went through that, because I don't even know what I would do the first time that would happen. I wouldn't know what to do. But to feel that way, I can just imagine the pure terror that you felt every night that you woke up. But next, let's talk about this picture right here. This picture is pure evil. Looking at this, it has me so unsettled right now. I don't even know what this is. If anybody in the comments knows, please let us know. But this just looks like pure, absolute evil. And I absolutely could not imagine being in your position, seeing this thing, not only just seeing it, but it then running at you. But looking at this, it just absolutely sends shivers down my spine, and it freaks me out. And I'm so sorry that you saw that. But I really hope that you're not seeing it now. From the story, it sounded like after the house was cleansed that you haven't had any more experiences. So I pray that stays the same way. I do want to say thank you so much for sending in your story. But again, I am so sorry that you went through that. And if anybody in the comments has any idea of what this thing in the picture is, please let us know. But that does conclude this episode of Tea After Midnight. If you have any personal scary stories you want to share, I would love to read them. You can email me at the email on the screen or the email in the caption of this video. But as always, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have the best night. I love you, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.
A woman named Elle reached out and she said they are keeping things underground in Kansas, and if those things ever got out, we would be completely screwed as a society. Now, Elle says her ex-husband was very stoic, very mean, and very no-nonsense. He was decorated in the military, and they had been married for 4 years when he finally told her this story, and the only reason he told her was because they were stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic for over 8 hours. She gave me a lot of information so that I was able to verify that he is a real person and did the job that she said that he did. But in order to keep both her and his identities private, all I'm going to tell you is that he joined the military at age 18, and 8 of the years that he was in the service, he spent between Iraq and Afghanistan. Now retired and on 100% disability due to a direct IED hit while paratrooping. So years ago, when Elle and her ex were still married, they were on a road trip to visit a friend in another city, and the trip was supposed to take about 8 hours, but they got caught in bumper-to-bumper traffic, and those 8 hours turned into 20. Was apparently a really bad accident. The highway was completely stopped, and it was so bad that people were parking their cars on the interstate and getting out and talking to each other, sitting on the hoods of their car, hanging out because nobody could go anywhere. Car is off. She says she was always passenger princess and he had been driving during this road trip, but after they had been stuck for several hours, they had a bottle in the trunk. He decided to get a little bit tipsy. She was like, no problem, I can drive. They're not going anywhere soon anyway, so they're sitting there. He starts drinking, he gets a little loose, and that's when he tells her this story that she could not believe, because in all the years that they had known each other, he had never talked any kind of nonsense to her. But he tells her that when he was stationed in Afghanistan, he was like the big boss of his command. I'm sure there's a proper term. I apologize. I'm not familiar with military terminology, but stationed about 20 miles away from Kandahar. And one night he's sleeping and he's awoken by a real life Jason Bourne type figure, as he described it to her. And he does not know this man, but this man instructs him to gather 2 men under his command that he trusts the most. One of the men is going to be escorting him, and the other man is going to act as a watcher to ensure that nobody else at their station knows that these people even left. And Elle's ex tells her that he had heard of these secret men, but he had never believed in them, and he was the highest authority at his post. Meant that there was no commanding officer over him at this post, and he had not approved this Jason Bourne type to enter the post, especially not his personal quarters. But he gathers 2 men, he does what he's told, he instructs soldier number 1 to stay there and keep watch, and soldier number 2 to follow him. That he didn't know what they were getting into, but he knew that something serious was about to go down. They go about 2 miles away, and they are met with 2 other special forces, an Army Ranger and a Navy SEAL, and he found this extremely strange because Navy SEALs are not typically on missions in Afghanistan or Iraq. Elle says she's not aware of this, but this is just what he told her. Anyway, the Army Ranger hands him what is essentially an NDA, but they referred to it as something different. They have him and the soldier that he chose to assist him sign. After they sign the paperwork, they are led to 2 large, special marked cargo, temperature-controlled containers. He recognized because he used to work in logistics as an Army Ranger. He knew that these were used at one point to ship out weaponized viruses. Is expecting something to that effect, I suppose. But they go in and there is a dead giant. Elle's ex was allegedly instructed to remove his personal belongings and take his measurements. Even though he was no longer alive, they also were instructed to ensure that he was securely tied down. Describe this giant to Elle as being over 17 feet long with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. He had red hair, a beard, and was wearing a loincloth that he described to Elle as being similar to what Brendan Fraser wore in Tarzan. Weighed in at over 900 pounds, and he told Elle that he smelled like evil. And Elle remembers saying, "Evil is not a smell. What does evil smell like?" And he said, "Me trying to explain that to you would be me trying to explain what a painting looks like to someone who was born blind. You would never know the smell unless you smelled it yourself." He told Elle that they also removed a satchel from him that was made of the same material that his loincloth was, which they assumed to be the hide of some kind of animal. Inside the satchel were weapons made from bones and a spear that was made probably from a tree trunk. They then assisted in shipping this cargo container with the dead giant inside to an underground facility in Kansas where apparently he said they keep a lot of these things. That's when he said, "That's not all that's there, but if I told you what was there and if those things ever got out, we would all be effed." Scary Storytime is a series of allegedly true listener-submitted stories. Keep in mind these can come from anyone. None of this story should be taken as absolute fact, but all of these stories are sent in by real people. That said, Elle's name has been changed, but she will be seeing the comments. If you have a story you think nobody would believe, send it in. We'd love to hear it. And I'm putting together a podcast of spooky, scary military stories, so that's why I'm kind of harping on this topic a lot lately.
Let's talk about one of the most haunted and cursed places you definitely should not be visiting this summer. I know the weather is warm. We want to go to lakes and beaches, but let's maybe not go to this particular lake. And as someone who grew up on the Florida-Georgia line, we always talked about how this is the lake that you should not go to. We always heard about the immense amount of drownings that happened at this place and people being snatched under the water and the hauntings and how this is the place where you don't go in the damn water. I'm going to give you a brief little history on what happened before the hauntings and the curses began. Remember, I'm saying brief because I only have 3 minutes, so don't yell at me in the comments talking about I missed something or left something out. I have 3 minutes. Brief. If you haven't figured it out yet, I'm talking about Lake Lanier in Georgia. Before it was Lake Lanier, before it was a lake at all, it was a town called Oscarville. It was a predominantly Black community, a thriving Black community, and as history tells us, certain people don't like that, and they weren't happy about that. So when a few crimes happened, they immediately decided this is our chance to blame the community that we want gone, which is what they did. And they forcibly ran them out and flooded the entire fucking town and turned it into a giant lake. No, they did not open floodgates and drown everyone all at once like what, people assume, I think. They actually bullied them out of their homes, essentially, and forced them out of their thriving town. Years after this is when it actually got turned into a lake, and that's what we now have as Lake Lanier. And obviously, when you do that and you cover up graves and you flood graves, there's still buildings standing. I believe that the only ones that were removed were ones that were over like 35 feet tall. This needs a deep dive, okay? But anyway, you covered up people's graves and homes, and there's energy and I'd say upset ancestors, understandably. And therefore, you get a very haunted and cursed area of land and water. And therefore, there are now claims very often of people being snatched under, people who are very good at swimming, never resurfacing. There's the very well-known Lady of the Lake, I think is what they call her. There are random accidents that happen that don't make any sense, like boats just exploding, people claiming that hands grabbed their feet and pulled them under. Since the creation of the lake in 1956, there have been over 700 deaths, and over 200 of those have been since 1994. There's also people who just disappeared and were never seen again. So maybe think again if you had the idea that you might want to go to Lake Lanier for the summer.
So we talk a lot about what's lurking in the dark out there. Creatures, entities, things we can't explain. But I think people forget humans can be just as terrifying. Maybe even more so. Because at least with the paranormal, you can question if it's real. And we all know that Appalachia has no shortage of either. I came across this story recently out of the Appalachia, South Carolina, Tennessee border. It is one of the most unsettling things I've come across in a while. This man, we're going to call him Ray, went with his son's friend Cameron to go check out a pool behind camper that was for sale. Cameron's dad wasn't able to make it, so Ray offered to tag along and help him inspect it. So this place was a few hours away, so the plan was to go check it out and be back by dinner time. That was the plan anyway. So they get to the area and they follow the GPS down a windy gravel road that dipped deep into the holler. Ray said that the transition was immediate. The normal world sort of vanished. There was all this rusted machinery and collapsed trailers. The landscape just had this vibe like it was forgotten by everybody outside the holler. He described it as DRUG city vibe. He said it was the kind of place that feels like there are eyes on you behind like every boarded up window, even before you see any people. Ugh. So they pulled up to the address and they knocked on the door. And at first they're just standing there and there is silence. Nobody is coming to the door. So naturally, they turned to leave. Cameron put the key in the ignition and he turned it and there was a hollow click. The engine would not start. So they tried a few more times and nothing. So Ray pulls out his cell phone. And of course, there's absolutely no cell phone signal. 0 bars. And that's when they felt the prickle on the backs of their necks. So they're looking around and they look down towards the woods where there were some trailers. And people started like emerging from the shadows. They were all just standing there staring at them, unblinking. Some leaning against porch railings with shot GUNS in their hands. Silhouettes were shifting within the darkened windows of these trailers too. It was like they were watching their every move, waiting for some kind of a signal. And then the front door of the main house creaked open. So a woman steps out and he says that she was barely dressed and her skin was really pale and she looked really sickly. She had sunken, wide eyes. It looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. At first, she didn't ask why they were there. She didn't even introduce herself. She just stared at them with this jagged, unsettling smile. Ray even said immediately he noticed something was really off about the way she was standing. It was like her torso was contorted in an angle that would have been painful. And then she said with a raspy voice, "The camper paperwork's inside. But you boys look thirsty. Come in. I got some water. Come in and let's talk." But Ray said no thank you and that he was going to stay outside and try to get the car working. He said her smile didn't change, but her eyes did. She said, "It's much cooler inside. Come in. Just come in for a minute." And they said that every time they refused, she would get more erratic. She started pacing the porch and her voice got louder. "Why won't you come in? I'm being neighborly. Just get in this house." And the more they held their ground, the more her face shifted, her calm mask dissolving into pure rage. So then a man walks out and he looks at them, says, "I'm a mechanic." Didn't say anything else, and then looks at her, kind of like side-eyeing her. Ray said that the look between them said everything. This felt coordinated. So the man just walks over swiftly to the car, and he just starts digging into it and ripping into it, ripping out wires and clunking things around, just completely erratic behavior. He was absolutely not fixing anything. He was disconnecting things and breaking things. So after like 10 minutes of ripping things out under the hood, he just stops, says, "I'll be right back," and walks towards the trailer. So he never comes back. And eventually, a teenager comes out, walks up to them and says he was on a weekend-long bender. He has passed out and there is no waking him up. Honestly, maybe a blessing in disguise. So the sun is dropping down below the ridge. The shadows are bleeding through. It is getting late and they are beginning to internally panic. The air is turning freezing and there were more GUNs visible now from all the people around their trailers. And then Ray just finally, his patience snaps and he yells, "Somebody let me use the phone or I'm walking out of here and calling the law." Okay, so the people that are watching from a distance step forward now with GUNs in hand. But then an older man appeared from the crowd and he offered to walk them over to his trailer to use his phone. Ray said that the smell hit him like a physical blow when the door opened. It smelled like rotting trash and dead animals, and he could see cockroaches literally blanketing the walls. They were scurrying around in the dim light of the flickering bulb. And then they waited and waited until about 11 p.m. when Cameron's dad finally got there and towed them out. As they pulled away, Ray looked back at the main trailer, and he saw that woman just standing on the porch watching them leave in the darkness. And on their way back, Ray said that it hit him. That online post of that trailer probably never even existed. It was just bait to get someone down into the holler with a working car, 0 cell phone service, and nowhere to go. They got out, but I can't stop thinking about maybe who didn't, who answered that ad before or even after them. Also, what were their plans? That one was so freaking creepy. All right, guys, you know what to do. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you have your own creepy story, please share it with me. And if you're new here, don't forget to follow for more creepy story time.
I come today to bless you up with another Trini Paranormal, Trini Scary Story, Trini Folklore, and we go into another industry. It seems as though all the industries in Trinidad and Tobago have some sort of paranormal situation happening. So let's go straight into it. So our follower said, hey, so I work in a manufacturing company in Arima, and I didn't believe anything until I started working night shift, and then I realized that there really are spirits. In night while working, I was standing by a machine, and all around it has doors with sensors, but these doors are sliding doors that lock, so it's impossible to just slide open. In night while I was monitoring it from the control room, the control screen just stopped. I then walked around and saw one of the doors open. I looked around to see if maybe someone was messing around, but no one in their right mind would be messing around or walking around that hour of 2 a.m. I reset it and continued as normal, not thinking much about it until another night around minutes to 11. The same thing happened, but to a door on the complete other side. I was beginning to feel paranoid, and I mentioned the experience to the technician, and he told me that something like this also happened to him a while ago, and he also feels like there's something roaming the plant sometimes. Fast forward to about 2 weeks ago. This was just before lunchtime, so about 11 a.m. Me and a co-worker was doing an inspection on a big roller, and after we stood there and was talking, we both got silent while we was filling out a form, and no joke, we both heard like a whisper calling my name. We both freaked out and turned to see if maybe there was someone standing behind us, but we're both in the hallway and no one on both ends was standing there. It was absolutely creepy, and to this day we have absolutely no idea what the hell called my name. I was never a person to believe in these things, but it is real. Sometime while you're making your rounds before 6 a.m., so like around 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. walking on the floor, I would swear that I saw a shadow in the corner of my eyes. I wasn't much of a believer, but I believe in these things now. Night shifts in and of itself is very scary, but when things start happening in the witching hour between 12 and 3 o'clock in the morning, I think that is when things go downhill. So let me know, have you ever worked a night shift and experienced paranormal things, or even during the day? These industries in Trinidad and Tobago seem to have a lot of haunting experiences.
This lady says that her niece looked at her with very evil, angry eyes and told her that her child was going to go to the other side. This lady was pregnant, and when she was giving birth, she actually lost her baby. She explains that after this, she couldn't look at her niece in the eyes again. This lady said that she lost her husband, and during the funeral, there was a little girl who was standing behind her with the mom, and that the little girl told her mom, who is the man that's standing really close to the lady. Obviously, there was nobody behind her other than the little girl and the mom, and apparently when they got close to the coffin, the little girl saw the man that was laying in there and said, that's the guy, that's the one that was standing behind her. I feel like that was kind of sweet, but I guess it could be a little freaky at the same time. Okay, well, this one's kind of fucking crazy. So apparently this lady had 2 daughters, and they ended up taking her life with 2 pew-pews to the head. When one of those daughters was 3 years old, she asked her older sister if they had hurt her mom by away, hitting her in the head. And when the sister asks why she's asking that, the little girl says that anytime that her mom comes to visit her, there's just a lot of blood coming from her head. This girl's auntie had passed away, and one of the nephews kept saying that, "You're gonna put me in the same hole, you're gonna put me in the same hole." Apparently the hole where the auntie was being buried in. He would say it very loudly, almost laughing about it. Not even half a year passed when that little boy ends up passing away, and they did end up burying him in the same hole where the auntie was.
Hi Daisy, my name is Emily. There was one particular story from your previous videos that was somewhat similar to mine, and wondered if it meant anything. I wanted to tell my story for a long time, and I'm hoping you can get it out there, and hopefully someone can give me advice on what to do. Well, my family and I used to live in an apartment until my dad's father had given us the opportunity to rent his house. I was 12 at the time, and my mom was pregnant with my second sister. So we needed the space, and it meant I was finally going to get my own room. The day before we moved in, my dad took me to the house late in the evening to map out where we would place the furniture. But I didn't feel comfortable at the house at all. I don't know why. I just had this awful feeling, and I wanted to go back to the apartment immediately. That should have been the immediate red flag, but I am awful when it comes to listening to my gut. After moving in, it was normal for a while, until we fully settled in, that something wanted our attention. At night, we would hear the wood floors creaking, as if someone was walking through the house. We would hear slight noises from the attic too, which spooked me, but over time, it became normal, so we ignored it. My little sister had already been born, and she was 2 or 3 by the time. She had moved into my sister's room, so they were now sharing a room, which is when more activity started. My sister and I would be doing chores around the house, and we would occasionally get a glimpse of a little girl in the rooms, and we would assume it was our little sister, since she was already walking at the time. The little girl would have the same physical features as my sister, long dark brown hair and short, so we had no doubt it was her, but we were proven wrong every time that it wasn't her, because we would find my sister in the living room, on the couch, or in her crib sleeping. My sister and I told my parents about this, but they always shut it down, making us think we were going crazy. So that was the new norm for us, and we gave the girl the nickname Pineapple. Every time we saw the girl, we would say, "Hey, Pineapple is in mom and dad's room," or "Pineapple was in the guest room," something like that. We were used to it by then, so we weren't scared anymore. Until one night, I had the urge to go pee. And since my room was next to the bathroom, it was going to be a short trip. Once I got out of my room, it was dark, but not dark enough, because I was able to clearly see just the shadow of a tall man with a top hat about 4 feet from me in the hallway.
This is probably the scariest case to come out of the Appalachian Mountains. Now, this one is personal to me because I actually worked on this case. Now, I had a friend who lived in North Carolina, and he was a paranormal investigator. He reaches out to me one day and is like, "Hey, so I got this weird case, and, I'm kind of stumped. Like, could you help me with it?" Apparently, there was this Native American family who lived on the reservation, and they had a daughter who was like 16 or 17, and at the time, she was getting dropped off from a friend's house one night at her parents' home. Well, her friend drops her off, and she said when she got out of the car, she had to walk down this like bumpy, gravelly, muddy road. And she said as she's walking down this gravel road, and right next to her, is the woods, she sees this man standing on the side of the road. And she said he had this black hat on, a black cloak, and she said she couldn't really see his face at the time because it was turned. She said as she walked a little closer to him, he turned his face, and she said he had no mouth, no nose, but these solid red eyes, and he was just staring at her. Well, she said, she walked as fast as she could to the house, and this man began, following her. So she runs inside her house, and she's, screaming, crying at this time. Her dad's like, "What's going on? Why are you crying?" And she said, "There's this man out there in a hat, and, he was following me." So her dad runs out of the house and just starts looking for this guy. He doesn't find anyone. He doesn't see anything. And he's like, "You sure there was a guy out there?" And she's like, "Yeah, I seen him, he was on the road, and he was, followed me to the house." So a couple weeks pass, and they start noticing that their daughter is waking up at night from having these terrible dreams, that she is seeing this man in her room. And not only that, she is waking up with these scratches all over her body. In the next coming months, right, there was something banging on the windows, banging on the doors, right? They could hear scratching sounds coming from the roof all night long, except when the father would go and investigate and try to figure out what was going on, like he couldn't find anything. And then one night, the daughter is having like this terrible nightmare, and the mother in the other room, she could hear this going on. So she walks over to her bedroom, which the door is halfway open. She looks in, and she said she could see a man standing next to her bed with this hat and this cloak on. She goes in her room, she flips on the lights, and she said it was gone. And not only this thing was, attacking, this girl was attacking their home. It had left scratch marks on the truck, on the home. There were claw mark footprints all around the home. These are real pictures from some of the damage that it was causing and the scratch marks that it left on this girl. Now, I started looking into this case, and I started researching what we come to know today as the Hatman. And as I got deeper into this case, I started to notice weird things were happening to me. Like, I lived up in Chicago at the time, and one night I'm asleep, and I just remember it was 3 a.m. I wake up to the sound of a scream, and I'd never heard anything like that before. So I immediately jump up. I think someone's in the house. Like, what is going on? I searched my entire home. There was no one there. The doors were locked. The windows were closed. So as I'm getting ready to go back to bed, I walk past the living room, and as I turn, sitting in a lazy boy recliner is what looks like a man in a cloak and a hat, just rocking. And I look again, he's gone. But I could see movement of the chair, and that's someone obviously had bumped it or had been sitting in it. And that like sent chills down my back. And I immediately like went into the bedroom, closed the door. And mysteriously, as all of this started, it just one day stopped. And to me, what I thought personally was this was a case of the Hatman. Sleep paralysis is something that's really terrifying. So many people have reported these creepy experiences while they were under sleep paralysis. Now, there have been reports from people seeing these shadowy figures move across their room, to having these entities literally crawl on top of them and hold them down or sit on their chest. So what is it that people see during sleep paralysis? Now, there was this young man who said he happened to be in Arizona. He was on vacation, and he found himself on the Navajo reservation. And as he's visiting this small town, he said he met this older Native American man, and he started to ask him about his culture. And he said this Native American man was very hesitant, and he kept telling him, I don't like to talk about this stuff. So he pushed this guy even more and more, and he began to ask about some of the dark entities in their culture. And this older gentleman just responded, "That's not my way, like I don't talk about these things." So after that, they leave the reservation. And he felt very bad about that, pressing this guy and talking about things this guy felt they shouldn't have been talking about. But as they continued to travel, like, he felt a little less bad about it. So as they get off the reservation, they find themselves at this campsite, and they go to bed for the night. So this gentleman, he is in his tent, and he's asleep. And he just remembers waking up, and he couldn't move. He couldn't talk. He could see everything, but he was frozen. He couldn't move. And he could hear what sounded like footsteps, someone really loud, walking outside the tent. And then he began to see this shadowy figure on the flaps of the tent. And so that's when the zipper slowly opened, and he said in came this very terrifying, dark-looking entity. And he said this thing was snarling, growling at him. And as he's sitting there, and he can't move, he said this thing came in the tent, crawled on top of him, and it started licking his face. And just then he awoke and he could move and he felt like everything was normal again. But as he touches his face, he feels this slobber-like substance. Well, after this, the next couple of weeks, he begins having these dreams. And he would wake up, he couldn't move, couldn't talk. But he said, then he would see his friend come in his bedroom. And he would slowly open the door. And his friend would stand right next to the bed. And he would tell him, it's going to be okay. This will be over in a little bit. And he said his friend would transform into this dark, creepy looking entity. And would basically just torture him for hours on end until he finally awoke. And then he said, one night he had stayed up for 2 or 3 nights in a row because he was so terrified to sleep. And finally, when he falls asleep, he said he just remembered waking up and he was in the middle of the desert. And he recalls just walking through the desert, but he wasn't getting anywhere. He didn't know where he was at. And as he looks over his corner, he said there was that same entity he had seen every night. And this thing began to chase him. And he said it would constantly go after him and harass him. And he just was hoping to wake up because he knew it was a dream. But he said night came. And then the morning came. And then the night came. And he said this went on and on and on. He just could not wake up. And then one day, boom, he said he opens his eyes. And he was amazed that he'd finally woken up. And he goes over to the mirror and he thinks, where's this beard that I've grown? And, why have I not aged? I still look the same. And that's when it occurs to him that only a couple hours had passed. He'd only been asleep for a few hours. But in this state of sleep paralysis, he said he was in it for 40 years. At night when you have to turn the lights off in your house and you get to that last light and you switch it off and it's completely dark. And it feels like all of a sudden your house has now become the most haunted house in the world. And you have to make a run all the way back to your bedroom. There might be something to that. Now, when we are doing this, right, we put ourselves in a vulnerable position. And I think anything negative, any kind of spirit that is a negative entity knows this. This is the best time to scare us. And they're trying to see if they could scare us just a little bit to gain entry and to allow them permission to come into our lives. So this is a story I heard out of Rockford, Illinois. There was this girl and she lived in this bigger house all alone. And it started to get late. She wanted to go to bed. So she starts going through her house, turning off all the lights. She gets to the last light, which is in the living room. And when she hits it off and it goes completely dark, she gets that feeling. Well, she walks through her living room, and as she walks past her kitchen, she turns and kind of glances in, and she sees a woman, like in a white gown, just standing in the kitchen. And she's like, "Who are you? What do you want?" And the woman just starts walking towards her. So she takes off running to her bedroom. She closes her door, locks it, and she calls the police. The police show up, and she says, "Come inside, like there's a woman in my house. I'm in my bedroom, locked in there. I don't want to come out." So they go through her house, they search it, they don't find anyone. And they said, "Ma'am, are you sure you didn't just see something? Like, are you just tired and maybe there was like a hallucination?" And she goes, "No, I'm for sure there was a woman in my kitchen." So they said, "Well, we can't find anything. You probably are just tired. Why don't you just go to bed?" So they leave, and she goes back up to her bedroom. And when she lays down in bed, she kind of feels like, you know what, maybe that was just, in my head. Maybe I'm just tired and I need to get some sleep. So as she turns around to adjust herself in the bed, there is the woman standing right next to her. And she jumps up, she runs out of her house, and she said as she's in the front of her house, she can see the woman looking out of her window, staring at her.
This is the first time that I've received a story coming from Appalachia, and it's horrifying. I've only told this story to my close friends, and I've never dared to post it on the internet because I know how people online can be. But honestly, if somebody else told me this story, I'd probably try to rationalize it too. But this happened to me last year, and it still freaks me out to think about. I live in a small town in the Appalachian Mountains, and there's a trail behind my neighborhood that leads pretty far back into the woods. It's not an isolated horror movie type place either. People hike there all the time during the day. I've walked it since middle school. At the time that this happened, I was going through a really rough patch mentally. I had just gotten out of a long relationship, and there was a bunch of family stuff happening at home too. One night, I remember sitting in my room crying harder than I had in years. Not trying to be dramatic, just genuinely overwhelmed. It was late and everybody else in the house was asleep, so I was trying to stay quiet. The only weird thing that happened that night was with my dog. He kept staring toward my bedroom window and whining. At one point, I actually checked outside because he was acting so strange, but I didn't see anything. The next evening, I decided to go for a walk because I'd been stuck in the house for days and I needed to clear my head. It was already getting close to dark, but I wasn't really thinking about it. I was maybe 20 minutes into my walk when I heard somebody crying somewhere off in the woods. At first, I honestly thought it was another hiker or maybe somebody got hurt. The crying sounded far away, but clear enough that I could hear it between everything else. Then I noticed it sounded weirdly familiar. I know this part sounds stupid, but it sounded almost identical to the way that I had been crying the night before. It was the same uneven breathing and everything. I kind of just stood there listening because my brain was trying to make sense of it. The second I stopped walking, the crying stopped too. That was the moment that I got uncomfortable. A few seconds later, I heard movement off to my left in the trees. I remember calling out something like, "Hello?" thinking maybe somebody was actually there, but there was no answer. Then I heard what sounded like somebody trying to stifle laughter. At that point, I started walking back the direction I came from because the whole thing suddenly felt wrong. The footsteps started moving too, staying somewhere in the woods beside me. I still couldn't actually see anyone, which honestly made it worse. Then I heard the crying again, except it was closer this time, and mixed into it was the sound of laughter. I know people are gonna say it was probably an animal, but I've lived around these woods my entire life. I know what coyotes sound like. I know that foxes make weird screaming noises. This didn't sound like either of those. It sounded human enough to make my skin crawl. I started walking faster, and whatever was out there started moving faster too. Every time I sped up, I'd hear movement keeping pace with me through the trees. Then I heard what sounded like my own voice say, "Hey." That's what scared me more than anything. It wasn't aggressive or screaming or anything dramatic, it sounded normal. I immediately started running after that. And this is the part that I still can't fully explain. The farther I ran, the closer the sounds felt. I could hear footsteps moving through the woods beside me, and the laughing got louder and more erratic. At one point, it genuinely sounded like multiple people laughing at once. I glanced toward the trees one time and saw something moving low to the ground between them, but it disappeared too fast for me to really make out what it was. It could have been an animal. It could have been my eyes playing tricks on me because I was panicking. I honestly don't know. I just know I ran the entire way back home. When I got inside, my dog immediately started barking toward the backyard, which he almost never does. I shut all the blinds and tried convincing myself I'd worked myself into a panic over normal sounds in the woods. But later that night, while I was laying in bed, I heard what sounded like somebody crying outside for maybe 5 seconds before it suddenly turned into laughing. I didn't look outside. Maybe there's a logical explanation for all of this. Maybe somebody was messing with me somehow. Even now, I refuse to walk that trail once it starts getting dark.
Rarely I receive spooky stories to share that have videos, but today we have one with a video, and when I tell you this might be the scariest thing I have ever seen, I am not joking. So, let's read the backstory here. I'm reaching out because I have a personal experience that I think your audience would find truly chilling. This story took place on the Tiwa Islands, north of Darwin in the Northern Territory. I was out night shooting for possums and wallabies with my family, and we experienced something that I still can't explain. While we were in the bush, my brother and cousin distinctly heard a voice tell them to come over here, which drove them back to the car. Later, while we were sitting on the roof, my dad, who was sitting inside the car, counted an extra pair of legs visible through the windshield. He stayed quiet until we were safely closer to town to avoid scaring us. The most disturbing part happened when we got back. My brother recorded a short video inside the car. When we watched it back later, he realized there was a face and fingers visible behind the back seat, moving when the light hit it. To make it even creepier, we only had 4 possums when we finished hunting, but when my dad checked the car for a knife later that night, he found a 5th possum sitting there. I don't believe the spirit was evil. It was on land where many of our ancestors have passed, so I feel it was simply a lost spirit. I've attached the video clip here. Please feel free to use the story and the clip for your content. This story was submitted anonymously, but I wanted to say thank you so much for submitting. I'm actually horrified. Take a look at this.
That's you! That's you!
You could clearly see the face of the spirit dodge out behind the car seat, and oh my gosh. And I agree. I think that especially if it brought you another possum, I don't think that the spirit is something malicious or evil, but definitely really, really, really terrifying to get this on camera. Thank you again for submitting this story. If you guys have any stories you'd like me to read, please email them to me and I will get to them if I can. I will see you in the next one.
Does anyone else feel like we shifted into another timeline or dimension? You know, if you grew up in the 80s or the 90s, like, it's really hard to explain to people what it felt like, but something changed. You know, I just remember the sun, right? It was brighter. There was just a different look to things. And I don't know how to explain it, but things just appear different. Music sound different. Cities were just, I remember they were beautiful and like immaculate. And I have all these like memories of just how things were. And it's almost like something changed along the way. And I really don't know how to explain it, but I'm sure a lot of other people feel the same exact way. And I mean, you know, like holidays, Christmas, Halloween, like it felt so real, so alive, and you felt good inside. And it almost felt like we were in some kind of movie that was just perfect. And then something turned on, and here we are now. And everything just kind of seems dull and gray. That excitement is gone. But do you get what I'm saying? Where like things just look different. Like the coloration is all wrong. And places seem all wrong. And movies are different than I remember it. You know, like I watch older films that I grew up with in the 80s and 90s, you know, like my favorite movies and shows. And when I watch them, they just don't have that same feel. Like it feels like they've changed. So I'm just curious, does anyone else feel like things are different? Like we shifted into another timeline or dimension?
When I was 14, I stayed at home alone a lot because my parents both worked night shifts. So one night it was just me and my dog, and we were just kind of hanging out. We were watching a show in the living room, and all of a sudden my dog starts to go low to the floor, and he starts staring very intensely into the hallway. At first I thought he heard something outside, but then his ears turned to the back like he was scared of something, and he started to back up until he bumped into my leg. So I sat there and I just kind of listened with him, and then I heard a slight like tap noise, and it wasn't coming from my front door. It wasn't coming from my back door. It was coming from my bedroom door. My bedroom was empty. There should have been nothing in there. I called out hello, and it almost scared me more to even say that. And my dog started to whine, and I stood up and I grabbed the flashlight and my phone, and I started to walk towards my bedroom because I know nobody was supposed to be home. Every single light was off in my house except for the TV behind me, so my hallway felt extra dark. And as I was walking down, I got to my bedroom door, and my bedroom door was slightly opened. I pushed the bedroom door open, and it was empty. I checked the closet. The closet was closed. The windows were locked. I know that I usually close my bedroom door when I leave it, so obviously something or someone went into my bedroom. However, there was nothing out of place, so I went to turn around and leave, and my phone buzzed, and it was my mom. She texted me, and she said, "Hey, quick question, are you knocking on your bedroom door?" And I said, "No, why?" And she said, "Because our security cameras gave me a notification, and when I clicked on it, it is showing somebody sitting outside in the hallway just outside of your bedroom door."
might have known the story of real-life boogeyman, might have known the story of real-life boogeyman.
There's a video that's been floating around since 2001 that people say proves demonic activity. It was filmed at the Barton Villa or the Barton Mansion, and the history behind it is pretty creepy. In 1859, Dr. Benjamin Barton would acquire 640 acres in San Bernardino, California. He started a successful vineyard and winery and would eventually build the house that we know today. Now, it is said that he built this house out of clay from nearby native burial grounds. Now, it is said that the local Native Americans did beg him not to take these clay bricks. They said that something unholy would be unleashed if he disturbed this area. He ignored it as superstition and did it anyway. And then shortly after doing this, his wife collapsed and passed away. Now, Dr. Barton was incredibly devastated by his wife's passing, so he became a recluse and just shut himself inside the house. He then started practicing in the occult. Now, it was said that he used his extensive personal library to try to contact his wife and children using magic rituals and satanic rituals. But people often claim to hear loud noises and red lights coming through the windows. Many people also claim that he was casting spells using human bodies. There was a railroad in this area, and there's no record of this, but the legend says that transients would come to the railroad in search of either work or a place to live, and he would take them and then harvest their bodies for his practices to try to get in touch with his wife. Then in 1898, Dr. Barton would also pass away, and the circumstances around his passing are also very mysterious. No one really knows what happened, allegedly. The house would then exchange hands several times, becoming a mental health facility and then also becoming a hospice home. And so with all of the bad energy that is around there, it's not a surprise that people still claim that this place is haunted. Now, here's where the video comes in. Now, none of this that I can find anyway has been confirmed or anything, but the video is still out there. Very grainy, very eerie, but these kids in 2001 took a camcorder into this house to explore, and inside they found this figure. You can kind of make it out. I had to take a screenshot of the video to get this picture, but they see this image, or they see this thing coming out of a door, and they run. Now, allegedly, this video was taken in 2001, where video editing, it was still happening, but not teenagers with a camcorder. They weren't editing stuff like this. So many people believe that this is true evidence of it being haunted. Today, it is like an office complex or something, and it looks completely unassuming from the outside, but people have reported seeing hooded figures leaving or going into and entering the mansion at night, and they also find discarded animal carcasses near the property. So what do you think? Is it really haunted, or is it all just a hoax? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and follow for more spooky things. The disappearance of Trevelyan Evans is one that is just strange. Trevelyan was just 52 years old when she vanished into thin air, or so it appears. She went missing from a town called Llangollen, and I said that wrong, correct me down in the comments, but this is in Wales. The week before Trevelyan went missing, her and her husband had been on vacation, and they were renovating their vacation home. When she got back, she seemed to be in good spirits. On Saturday, June 16th of 1990, Trevelyan went to her antique shop that she owned. She was there at her usual time of 9:30, and she parked her dark blue Ford Escort 200 yards away from her shop. During the morning, there were about 25 customers who either called in or came in to see Trevelyan, and they all said that she was in good spirits. She seemed fine. Then at about 12:40 p.m., she put this note on the door saying that she would be back in 2 minutes, and she has not been seen since. Now, there was a man seen talking to her before she put the note on the door, and he was dressed in a suit. He looked like a decent man, or he looked well dressed. Now, this man has never been traced. Nobody knows who he is. Now, it is known that after she left the shop, she bought an apple and a banana, and she was seen crossing nearby Castle Street. The last known sighting of Trevelyan was near her home on Market Street at about 2:30 p.m. She hasn't been seen since. Now, investigators did find a banana peel in her trash can at the shop, so it is believed that she did return to the shop at some point. Investigators did start looking into her case, and in the shop they found her handbag, her car keys, and her jacket, and some fruit and some flowers that she had wanted to bring home that day. Her car was still parked at the shop too. She was just gone. There are 2 reported sightings after she went missing from her antique shop. At 2:35, a woman who matched her description was seen walking out of town along the A5 towards Corwin. I probably said that wrong too. Then at about 3:45, there was another sighting of a woman who looked like Trevelyan, and she was walking into Park Avenue from the direction of River D. Everyone in town was interviewed and finally excluded from the investigation. Over 1,500 names were checked and 700 cars were eliminated from this investigation. The mine shafts and there were so many searches done too, and there was no trace of her at all. Now, this picture was circulated in newspapers and among the community, but nobody knew who this was. And this was eventually in 2001, they found that this artist rendition was no longer accurate, like it wouldn't help the investigation at all. Now, this case would go completely cold, but in 2001, they did arrest her husband, but he was later released and not charged with anything, so they again have nothing. There have been several sightings of Trevelyan since all of this went down, and Interpol has even investigated, but still there is nothing. Like, she simply vanished and there is no trace of anyone anywhere. So what are your thoughts on this? How can someone just vanish like that? But let me know your thoughts down in the comments and follow for more true crime.
You want to see your father? Father is not living.
This is unfortunately true, and the story behind the girl who would become known as the feral child is absolutely devastating. Jeannie Wiley was born in 1957, and from the moment she entered this world, she was subjected to horrific abuse. Although she was born a relatively healthy baby, she had suffered a hip dislocation during her birth, which required a restrictive brace to heal and delayed her walking milestones, something her father would use as an excuse to justify her abuse. She was kept hidden for most of her life. Starting at just 20 months old, she spent her days strapped to a potty chair and her nights chained inside of a metal crib that was covered with blankets. Anytime she made noise, her father beat her relentlessly, so as she aged, she just got used to living in complete silence and never cried out for any needs that she might have had. Her father was incredibly paranoid and forced his family to live in isolation. Besides her father, Jeannie also had a mother and an older brother. Jeannie's mother had suffered a severe brain injury as a child, which affected her neurologically and ultimately led to her losing her vision. Her mother was also a DV victim of Jeannie's father and had very limited contact with Jeannie. Jeannie's older brother was given orders by their father to care for her by feeding her baby food and milk, but he was forbidden to speak to her or show her any form of human connection. When Jeannie's father interacted with her, he did so only by barking or growling at her like she was a caged animal. In 1970, Jeannie accompanied her mother to the disability office, but due to her mother's blindness, she had accidentally walked into the social services office instead. A social worker there immediately recognized the signs of severe abuse and neglect that Jeannie had been living with. When she saw Jeannie, she estimated her to be around age 6 because of how underdeveloped she was. She was actually 13 years old at the time. An investigation into the abuse was launched shortly after, and Jeannie was rescued. She was unable to chew food, swallow, or control her bladder. She could hardly walk, was severely malnourished, and the only words she knew were her name and sorry. On the day her father was due in court, he took his own life. Doctors and scientists interested in Jeannie's case because of what it could teach us about what happens to humans when they're raised in complete social isolation took her in to teach her how to speak. But the mental damage she had suffered from being raised this way was so severe that she was never able to develop fluent language. She was placed back into the care of her mother, who then gave her up to the foster care system, where she continued to be abused by the families caring for her. And despite the progress made with doctors, Jeannie eventually went completely mute and refused to open her mouth. As of 2026, Jeannie is still alive and is thought to be living in an adult care facility under the care of the state of California. This is the last known photo we have of her, and it was taken in 1986.